So our recent video on anger went a little viral, and it's sparking a big debate. Is rage the fuel of success, or is it a fire that will consume you? So let's dive into how Anakin Skywalker's fall, Stoic philosophy, and modern culture's obsession with outrage collide. Hey, I'm Riley, and this is Geeky Stoics. So our recent video on anger just crossed 100,000 views and nearly 1,000 comments, which is, like, for this channel, mind-blowing. And I wanted to take this moment to reflect, not just on the numbers, but why this video resonated. First of all, let's be real. Steven knocked it out of the park. This is Steven. He's not going to brag about it, so I will for him. This video struck a chord in a way that I never expected. And in a way that's kind of, honestly, it's refreshing to this sometimes cynical, beaten down Star Wars fan. What makes this success particularly exciting for me? It challenges the usual narrative. A lot of Star Wars content online, especially successful content online, thrives on negativity. And we're talking about anger, outrage, hypercriticism. I should know this, by the way, as spending 11 years of my life as a Star Wars podcaster. But I think this video did well in some ways for the right reasons. You are engaging with the ideas, debating, reflecting, and even I think this is challenging our own assumptions about anger and its role in our lives. If you haven't seen the video, check it out right here.
You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did.
Okay, now let's break this down. I think the central debate here is anger fuel or is it fire? This is the central theme of the video, and it sparked some strong opinions. And at its core, I think we're asking that question: is anger good or bad for you? And I think largely speaking, the comments fell into kind of two camps. There are those who believe that anger is this necessary fuel for success, for motivation. It's kind of like the Batman theology of embracing your rage and loneliness and transforming into something unstoppable. It's very hip. More on that in a minute. And then there's the second camp who I think reflected and even accepted and the message resonated, and that was the more stoic message that yes, emotions are powerful, but they must be controlled. They must be tamed. And I think that's a good thing, because here at Geeky Stoics, this is what we're learning. If you stand for something, it usually provokes at least some kind of reflection and disagreement at times. But that's what makes conversations like these worth having. Some small number of you might know me from the Star Wars Report, and this is one of the main reasons that I retired that podcast, because it was very much about covering the weekly news cycle of having fun, interesting conversations, but that were mostly at the surface level and only sometimes delving into the deeper themes of these stories. But of course, as we all know, Star Wars fandom has kind of circled down this hellhole of the post-Last Jedi culture war politics. And Geeky Stoics, by contrast, we're very intentionally diving deeper beyond that stuff. Because that's the thing, Star Wars isn't just entertainment. It's a mythology with lessons that shape who we are. And this matters, especially for younger generations who need more than ever to avoid what Yoda calls the easy path.
Is the dark side stronger?
No. But the busier, more seductive.
Seneca was one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, and he teaches us that emotions, anger included, are powerful and even necessary, but there's a line. We must control our emotions rather than become subservient to them. Seneca says, quote, "My anger is more likely to do me harm than you're wrong." That's from Letters from a Stoic. See, Anakin Skywalker's fall is a perfect example of what happens when we let emotions control us. And his story, as Yoda famously explains, follows a progression, a well-known progression. And that is fear leads to anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. Anakin's fear of loss of Padme, his desire for control, this gave way to his own jealousy and then rage and eventually blind hatred.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness!
In Revenge of the Sith, we see his descent into the dark side, and this is a cautionary tale of unchecked emotions. And yet I know many of you kind of push back against this interpretation, and some argue that anger itself is necessary, this dark, brooding rage that fuels success. But that's not Stoicism, and it's not Star Wars. You see, Stoicism challenges us to channel our emotions productively without letting them define us. Anakin's story is a warning. Anger may feel powerful in that moment, but it will ultimately consume you. Now, I do want to give some charity. I think there's some really good conversation on the nuance of this, because there may be some level of misunderstanding or at least nuance in that anger isn't always a bad thing, and that's not the intention of what Stephen was saying in the video. But this video did strike a chord, because culturally it's sexy right now to say that you're like fueled by your rage. I'm Batman. I mean, look at the content that dominates on YouTube, particularly in the Star Wars space. It's anger against Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, whatever controversial socio-political debates happening at the center of the Star Wars universe that week. Like, it is, the algorithms of YouTube favor this kind of rage baiting. And even beyond Star Wars, I think particularly young men today are vulnerable to this kind of anger-driven content. It's influencers like Andrew Tate, it's populist commentators that seize on the frustration, on the cultural loneliness and fear and frustration and hatred, anger, and telling men what or who they should hate. And why? Because it works. Outrage works. Generates clicks, views, loyalty, but it is the easy path. I think it's fair to feel frustrated by our culture right now. And I think even the direction of a beloved franchise like Star Wars. But letting anger define your entire fandom or life, it leaves you vulnerable. You end up consumed by these reactionary emotions, easily manipulated and ultimately miserable, suffering. I think this video resonated because it challenges that narrative. We're intentionally offering something different, a call to look deeper, to reflect, and to rise above the surface level discourse that dominates fandom, because Star Wars has wisdom to offer. You got to get past the noise. So for me, this video represents a turning point for us here at Geeky Stoics. The response we've received proves there's a hunger, I think, for these more meaningful conversations. And Star Wars isn't just about lightsabers and space battles. It's about myth, mortality. It's the philosophical questions that should shape our lives. And that's why we created Geeky Stoics, because we want to take the stories that we love, but to actually think about how they can shape us into better people. And that is the lesson of Anakin Skywalker. It's clear. Don't let anger consume you. Channel your emotions, yes, but be the one in control. And that's a message worth sharing. Hey, if this video resonated with you, and if you're one of the YouTube graphs, you're the few people watching at the very end of the video, I want to invite you to geekystoics.com. That is our Substack newsletter and community. It's where we are driving conversations just like this, and we'd love to have you. I hope you had a great Christmas holidays and a really exciting new year. There's some really cool things that we're working on for 2025. Can't wait to share them with you. More to come soon, but until next time, may the Force be with you.